Okay. Well, I'm going to start with food because I'm hungry. So what I normally do, actually, it's really normal, but basically, that's just Greek yogurt. I don't want to do it on screen because it's a hassle getting out of the container and it takes a little while. And then that's peanut butter because it's peanut butter. I usually use plain Greek yogurt or plain like yogurt because the kinds that have flavor, they also put like a lot of sugar. Maybe somebody else doesn't care, but I can always add like sweet flavor with honey, and at least I know how much like sugar I'm putting into it. There are some days that I don't really feel like eating something really sweet. Like I want to eat something that's a little bit more substantive. And then there are other days that like it's more kind of like a dessert, so I put more honey in it. But the peanut butter, like obviously anybody that does like lifting will tell you that peanut butter is good for like protein and blah blah blah. The same with the peanut butter. I usually don't have peanut butter that's with added sugar, just because if one thing has a bunch of sugar in it, for example, like the yogurt, and then the peanut butter has a bunch of sugar in it, and then you're putting honey on top of it, it's just like it starts to snowball really quickly. So that peanut butter and yogurt, like I mean, I usually just use quick oats because the oats themselves are smaller and they kind of just get softer faster, so you're not crunching on like crunchy oats. There's another way to do it if you have larger oats called like overnight oats, which basically softens like it's just like it sounds. You soften the oats overnight, and for this example, Greek yogurt and peanut butter, you just leave it in your refrigerator overnight, and the oats will get softer. Depending on how much I want to eat, like if I want this to be like a full meal, then I'll put more oats in it. If I'm just like eating it as like a snack or something, then I'll put less oats. I'm also boiling chicken right now, and I can't get like the the temperature right, so it's like overflowing a little bit. So if I keep looking past the camera, that's what I'm looking at. Obviously, if you don't like Greek yogurt, you can use regular yogurt. It's just food. Blueberries. Obviously, they're dripping because I just washed them. I'm sure there's a good reason why they tell you to wash them. I would have to look it up because I don't really know it offhand. Um, it's like a pound and 2 ounces for 18 ounces for 510 grams. And then honey as like a sweetener, like more or less depending on what like you want for your own preference. Like I'm actually just hungry, and I don't want like a bunch of sweet. Like obviously fresh fruits and stuff like that is more expensive. I just bought like a pound or something like that of like frozen strawberries. It's like $10. Also, like it's a hassle to like constantly go to the grocery store and get fresh produce like when it's fresh. So it's just easier to have like a giant frozen bag of fruit. Obviously, with this same like setup, you can just make a smoothie if you don't want to actually eat it. If you're like on the run or you got to leave. Say obviously a lot, but maybe it's not. With this same setup, if you throw everything into a blender and add some milk so that it's not as thick, you can make a smoothie. And all this, the Greek yogurt's a little bit more expensive. I like it. I'm just used to it at this point. They say there's like probiotics. I don't know. I've also like heard different takes on probiotics in general. I just got used to those flavors, so I kind of just enjoy like the little tang that it has. Um, but yeah, obviously you can swap the yogurt. If you like crunchy peanut butter, you can put crunchy peanut butter. If you like a different fruit, if you like kiwi, other kind of berries, I usually swap the fruit out whenever I have the opportunity. Just because eating the same thing isn't conducive to like a well-rounded, healthy diet. Oatmeal is oatmeal, like it's whatever. Like if you like the different texture of larger oats, then it's whatever you want to eat. Like I mean, it's kind of just like an easy meal that is kind of like a replacement to cereal and milk because cereal has just a ridiculous amount of sugar. Like, um, what else? If you want like the price, that's what I was going over. For like the yogurt, the Greek yogurt, it's maybe like 350 here in Texas. So obviously prices are going to differ depending on like where you're at and how much it costs to get stuff to wherever it's going. The blueberries, it's like $5. The oats, the ones that I get, it's like $1.30 for like a whole tub. So it's like a whole tub for like this. The honey's like $3. Um, the peanut butter, I think it was like 250 or something. So for this one in itself, like it's the blueberries, which is $5. The yogurt was like three something, and then you split the cost of like the tub of oatmeal, the honey, and the peanut butter. It was like $9, like this one, which I eat this whole thing. Most people won't eat the whole thing, so you could say, "Oh, well, I'll split it and I'll have two servings, so it'll be like 450 for each one." But it's a parfait. Like that's all it is. Like the fruit, the oatmeal, the yogurt. I add protein in the form of peanut butter just to like make it a little bit more encompassing when it comes to like a meal. Um, but I mean, there's plenty of fiber in the oats. There's plenty of fiber in the fruit. You're getting your dairy. I mean, there isn't like a whole ridiculous amount of sugar from the honey. Um, you're getting proteins from the Greek yogurt and the peanut butter. So it's just like a meal, you know what I mean? Like it's a meal that you could eat, and I can eat this whole thing and be like, oh man, I don't have to worry about the sugar content. I don't have to worry about like salt content. I don't have to worry about like it being too processed or this, that, and the other, because honestly, the only thing that was like processed in the creation of it was the yogurt and the peanut butter. Which the peanut butter that I grabbed, it only had like three ingredients. It was like peanuts, salt, and like palm oil. And the yogurt is just the yogurt. So I mean, it's literally nothing fancy, which probably is a good thing because um, I'm at now. Hey, no blueberries from now. And that's it. You can put bananas in it. You can put oranges. You can put mandarins. Hey, get off of that, man! Get off! He was walking on the keyboard and the laptop. Um, so that's it. I mean, like, that's all it is. Like, it's nothing complicated, but it's not as like it's not as empty calories as a lot of fast food places. You can say, "Oh, it costs $9," but how much is it going to cost for insulin if you get diabetes from eating stuff that's too high in sugar content? I wouldn't even call it an investment in your health. I would just say like, well, let me put it like this: you can water down the gasoline in your car and be like, "Oh, I'm investing in my car when I get like actual gasoline. I put the stuff in that's appropriate for it." You're not saying like you're investing in your car. You're just giving it the stuff that it actually needs to run properly. Like this is just food that your body actually needs to run properly. And I'm not like, oh, let me get on my soapbox about like, well, it's got to be this kind of this. It's literally just food. Like it's just food. And I'm gonna be like, oh, if you eat this every day, you're gonna grow 16 inches taller. Your heart's not gonna complain about this food. You know what I mean? Like, like it's just food. Like that's all it is. It's just food. But while I'm eating onto all this, okay. Right? Like whatever. That's that's funny. Mana riot. Seriously? Wow, that looks so familiar. Oh, and they changed the title. That's so rude. Okay. fleet footwork. I don't know if I can do this in 38 seconds, but we'll try. So I'm not gonna be able to do it in 38 seconds. Okay. So just a quick synopsis. This is what I normally go. Presence of mind gives you energy. It depends. If I feel like I'm going to be auto attacking a lot because it's a lane that I can push, it gives you just a little bit more sustain. Obviously, if there's a bunch of people that are having CC, then tenacity is good. If there's a bunch of tanks, if I feel like I'm going to be fighting for a long period of time, it's whatever, right? Obviously, the summoner spells are going to be, if you feel like you're going to be fighting more and you need ignite. I'm not really sure what I'm going to be building as far as my summoner spells for Kali. And here we go. Oh, it's shipped. Trying to make sure I don't burn my apartment down. So this whole build setup, right? It's so that you can get to late game or mid game or out of laning phase without dying a lot. The reason I use this build and the reason it's not good for competitive play is I know nobody on my team is going to help me at any point in the game. If anything, they're probably going to steal some of my CS and freeze my wave under the enemy's turret because that is what my team, that is the kind of I'm trying to think of the word. That is the kind of help that I can expect from my team. So not only do I have to be full health or as close to full health as possible for when I have to 2v1, when I have to 3v1, and for some instances, literally 4v1 in my own lane. I also need to be able to have the movement speed to back up or to get back in whenever I'm using her passive. And the whole point of having fleet, get down. Is so that I can continuously proc her passive and continuously have the movement speed to literally like dance like back and forth between like her passives. It's pretty much like the voice line she says, where quick, something, something, something. I don't know. Something about the voice lines. In pro play, very rarely is the mid lane Akali going to be the weak side. Very rarely is Faker going to be devoid of jungle assistance or like devoid of like somebody showing up to help him, right? Because it's Faker. Like everybody's going to like play around Faker, whatever. The same thing with Jojo Pune. Like Blabber's not going to be like, oh, my mid laner is just getting 3-man dove. I'm going to go finish my Krugs. He's not going to do that. Like they're going to show up and they're going to help. If he's getting camped, they're going to 2v2, they're going to 3v3, whatever the case is, right? My solo queue teammates, they're not going to do that. They're never going to show up to counter gank unless I'm like, yo, I've been ganked. And to cut the hyperbole, and to get rid of like the little bit of humor that I keep throwing into all of this. If I'm getting ganked 8 times, and I'm like, yo, jungler, when are you going to counter gank? When are you going to trade objectives? When are you going to gank? Since obviously I'm soaking all the pressure. Or if I'm getting ganked 5 times and 2 of them were by the jungler and the support on a roam, I have to literally be able to fight my way out because they're going to try to flash ult me the vast majority of the time. That's not going to happen in competitive play because hopefully somebody on their team has ward so they have vision, or they're going to be communicating like, oh, the support's not bot, he's probably on a roam timer, there's a ward in river that somebody else, their jungler, like put in there. Something like that, right? They're gonna have help. Like I don't have that luxury ever in any of my games. So I have to keep my health as high as possible so I can fight my way out of that gank and still be able to recover the lane state so that I'm not behind in CS, I'm not behind in experience, and I'm not dropping a bunch of plates to whoever I'm actually in lane against. So there's very rarely a case where, especially even more so because a lot of mid laners in competitive play on Akali take teleport. So even if you have to go back early because of a bad trade, you're not really in a position where you have to overstay to try to keep yourself relevant in the lane that you're competing against. So this is kind of overkill for them, which is why it doesn't make sense. Which is why I know they took it from me, because it doesn't apply to their situation. Now, what does Doran Shield actually do? It gives you a passive regen, and it gives you percent health regen based on missing health. But they nerfed it up to 45 now. And you get 5 extra damage. It's literally a sustaining item to keep you in the lane. With no offensive stats other than against minions. And I do this so that I can stay in lane and keep CSing and potentially get turret plates so that I can make sure I'm doing enough damage with my items later in the game, while still taking advantage of the fleet footwork passive so that I can get in and out and get my passive procs as many times as possible. Now we're going into the build. if I just explained that the point of this setup is so that I can sustain through lane to make sure that I'm farming effectively, potentially getting turret plates, then this would lean more towards sustain, right? That I want to be able to stay in the fight, I want to be able to stay in lane, I want to be able to proc my passive so that I can stay healthy enough to survive multiple multi-man ganks. That's the point. If that is the basis of my rune setup, it doesn't apply any damage at all. Like, the only damage that I get from this setup is from consistently being able to proc my passives, because the movement speed is going to let me get in, get that auto attack, do another Q, and then pull back out with the movement speed from Fleet Footwork so that I can go back in and like redo the whole thing. Or get my Q, walk back, get the passive, or let me swap that. Like, get the Q, auto attack him so I can get the Fleet Footwork proc, back up, walk back in, get the auto attack, use my E. By then, Fleet Footwork will be like reset when I go back in to get another auto proc so that I can land another Q so I can walk back out. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not just because of anything, or if anything, I can auto a minion, get the Fleet Footwork proc, walk closer to the person that I'm engaging on, and then start the whole process. It's just so that I can get my passive off more frequently while sustaining in lane. So if this build doesn't do any this setup doesn't do any damage for my runes in my builds, my runes and like my starting item build, why would I hard pivot into pure damage? Why would I hard pivot into what is it called? Something belt. Hextech, I don't know, whatever belt. Rocket belt. It's close. Why would I pivot into pure damage? Like, what? Like, if I'm barely doing enough damage so that I can stay in lane, so that I can keep procking my passive, like, how is that going to stack with what I already have set up? It's not. It's not at all. So why would I do that? Like, why would I take those builds? Even if you want to say, oh, I'm getting poked heavy in lane. Doran's Ring also gives you health regen if you don't have mana. Akali doesn't have mana, so she would get a smaller amount of health regen just from the ring itself. If she does damage, that health regen will increase, and it gives you 18 ability power and 90 health. So it's a more offensive item. The reason I would stack multiple Doran's items before somebody, for some reason, decided to nerf it was because you would get the passive heal from Doran's Shield, and then you would get the active heal from Doran's Shield, and then you would get the passive heal from Doran's Ring, and you would get the active heal from Doran's Ring whenever you did damage. And then I also got Doran's Blade because of that Omnivamp. And when I got to the point in the game where I could sell my Doran's Shield because it was more about getting in and doing damage, then I could rely on the Omnivamp from the Doran's Blade, and then I could rely on the Omnivamp from Riftmaker. And 2.5 Omnivamp is nothing to scoff at, considering there was a very select few sources of it. And Akali is one of those champions that you can build AD or AP and it's still going to go into some of her abilities. 65%, 25, 60, 50 on the first one, and then the second one is like just magic damage. Right? So explaining all of this, and I haven't really delved into it just because God hasn't put it on my heart to. I did spitball a couple ideas before the last season ended, and I would probably go something like this. Oh. And then I don't know, something else. Why? Because Voltaic Cyclosword, it increases your energized during dashes and stealth by 75%. So just off a Q, it was what, like 30? And it gives me a slow. So I'm literally just constantly getting the damage from Voltaic Cyclosword, getting the slow on whoever I'm fighting against, getting the movement speed itself from Fleet so I can keep proccing my passive, and getting a little health in there as well. So I'm building upon the foundation that I have, using Fleet Footwork's passive, and building off that theme to finish my build out. And because I'm constantly proccing my passive and auto attacking, I'm going to get a Lichbane because it has a little bit of move speed, which it doesn't really matter, but it has a lot of ability power and it has a passive. Since I'm going to be constantly going in to proc my own passive, it'll stack, so I'm getting a little bit more damage and I could just whittle the other person away. In contrast, what do they normally build? Like something like that, right? It's like the typical build. So what, I autoed like once, and all the damage was purely from my abilities. Why would you even have Fleet Footwork if you're never going to use it? It's literally a dead rune if you're never going to use it. Like, that's why I know that it wasn't their idea, because it in no way makes sense. Like, it has no use whatsoever. But I know every little detail on why I'm using every little thing, because I had to sit and suffer through every instance of, well, how do I survive a 3-man gank? How do I have enough health to keep trading whenever I keep getting ganked and I'm not getting any counter gains? What am I going to do if I start dropping CS? How am I going to fight in the mid game if I've been denied CS, I pushed off my turret, I don't have enough experience? Why am I even playing this champ? So that's why I developed this specific build, so that I could still be offensive with my defenses. So when I see people that are in pro building this pure raw damage build and having Fleet Footwork that they never use, it's like, why aren't you just going to electrocute? Like, obviously your laning phase isn't that intensive that like you need all these extra systems to sustain. And that's the difference. And people go, oh, well, you can just go conquer. You're never going to stack conquer. And then what are you going to do with it? Get some little healing once it's stacked? Fighting who? They nerfed Conqueror into the ground like 3 years ago, and they just haven't buffed it up. Like, at what point would Conqueror magically be better because it's a Kali? That's ridiculous. Like, the little damage that you're getting from Conqueror is completely negligible. You're never going to be healing off it because your fights aren't going to be long enough as an assassin. If you're fighting a bruiser and you're going Leandries and you're going top and blah, 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 sure. In that situation, it could be different. But in the typical mid lane setup where you're using a Kali as like an assassin, like a kill lane, you're never going to be pushed out of lane hard enough that you're constantly going to need this much sustain just to make sure you're CS at the competitive level, because you have teammates that are going to show up if you need their help. We are not in the same situation. That's why I know you're ripping my ideas and trying to put them in your situation and they don't apply, and you're actively hindering yourself. And you can be like, oh, well, it showed up at Worlds and they did well. They're also just professional players that are just playing a Kali. They probably could have done a lot better if their entire rune choice and builds were synergized. If they were all following a common idea and common like thread of why each item was put in place, like for the specific purpose. That's how I keep That's how I keep like catching you guys use my builds, because you're taking the parts that you think are OP and broken and just like shoving them into random places with random builds where they don't make sense. It's not like one little piece. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts, is what it turns out to be. Like, the reason that it works for me is because I know my playstyle, I know my situation, I know what resources I have available, and I work on an idea that will take advantage of the situation, and however lean the resources that I get are, to take advantage of those and to push the envelope. It's because I literally workshop this every single game that I play. This is why I have a problem with people that just like throw builds out willy-nilly. It takes me so many games to understand how each item works with another item. It takes me so many games to learn how each champion interacts with those items for it to be useful or not. And you're telling me that somebody can do all of the builds for a large swath of the champions in League of Legends with all the nuances for every single person's playstyle, their situation, and it works? I don't buy it. And then for items to constantly be nerfed and buffed, and then for them to be able to stay on top of that while being a Masters rank player or while playing their own games and grinding, no. No. Could I make a build that might fit like a competitive situation where I know my jungler is going to counter gank and I'm going to try to like make it a kill lane? Sure. Will it apply the same way to Faker that it applies to Jojo Pew? Probably not. it definitely won't apply the same way to them as it will to me. And I'm not saying like, oh, my place out was so blah blah different. My situation is very different from theirs. I highly doubt that people are going into JoJo Pew's ranked game on their Smurf so that they can lose games. I highly doubt that people are inting Faker so that he doesn't make it professional. Which is why I know when I see the world finalists playing Fleet Footwork Akali, going full damage, they probably didn't make it themselves. So I don't know. I could say something like witty and clever to try to get my point across even more, but clearly it's not getting across. Like clearly the just I don't even know. I don't know how to teach you how to like do what I'm doing. Like trial and error. Like try something, see if it works. If it doesn't work, try something else. Read the descriptions of the items. And after a while, like you'll know, oh, well, I can use this item and this passive with it, this item and this passive. And I just need a champion that'll fit in like on how to take advantage of both of those situations. And then after a while, like you'll figure out when you can use certain items with other items and which champions I can use with those items. And then you just keep workshopping it like, oh, well, no, this is a good idea, but I can't put it in practice, so I have to try to swap it out with something else. Like I need more tankiness, so I need to find something that's kind of close, or just scrap the entire theme and the entire idea and look around and try to find a different like theme that I can work with. Like it's not like I'm like a super genius and I just read the items and I never forget what they do, and I literally just trial and error, and then I just get a little bit better out of the grace of God, like for giving me the ability to just like not be upset when my builds suck and I have to scrap the entire idea, or the every aspect of my build just gets nerfed and I have to start from scratch. Like that's also kind of the fun of like I don't have to play like the same exact thing in the same exact way every single game, every single year, on and on and on. And once you start branching out to different champions, you just start building your fundamentals. Albeit it takes longer than just playing like one single champion and getting good at them and the way that it's typically said. And this is very, very much so more time consuming because you start learning how to work with the similarities between champions. Like, oh, my E on Akali is kind of like a similar speed to Lux's Q. And it's a skill shot, so I'm getting better at landing skill shots. Or I'm playing Yasuo so that I have to force myself to be melee range. So I have to work on my positioning, or I have to work on understanding what I'm going to do when I go into a team fight because I'm a melee champion and I have to be that close, which is an area that I struggled with for a very, very long time because I was always used to like playing range champions and like mages and stuff like that. So I forced myself to play Yasuo knowing that I was going to suck until I started getting better at it. And now I can translate that over into playing Akali because she's also a melee champion that you have to be very aware of your positioning, and she's like partially squishy the same way Yasuo is. Or if you're playing mage champions, like learning how to land skill shots and learning when you can walk in to get the auto. And then after playing so many different champions, once you start seeing the length of time that it takes for their autos to to connect with the minion, then you just start getting more comfortable autoing with different champions. Like once you get used to like how long it takes for their projectile to reach the minions. So you're just better at last hitting on mages because you've just practiced it forever. Like there is no there's no Space Jam like Michael Jordan's secret sauce. It's just water. Like nothing I'm doing is special to me. Like I'm not built different. Like the only reason any of this is going on is because God gave me the ability, and He's the one that's keeping me like involved in playing the game and working towards getting better. Like God did it for me, He'll do it for everybody else that asks Him. Like that's all it is. Like God is the reason that I have the ability to do these things, is because He gave me the ability and He gives me the encouragement to get back up when the innumerable, and no, that's not hyperbole. Like the innumerable amount of people try to hold me back. Like, and that's the difference, right? Like I know why I'm doing the things that I'm doing when I build the items and I build the rune pages out the way that I build it. So whenever I see them just copy and pasted over to a situation that doesn't apply, it's like, oh, well, there's a red flag. And as far as people like picking up on my mannerisms, when there's no like views on YouTube or whatever, it's not like I don't know about downloading videos on YouTube. It's not like I don't know about these other ways to do things. I just choose not to do them. Like I tried to give y'all the best ward spots that I could think of when I made the take notes video, and y'all would still do it wrong. I would put this over here on this brush, this pixel brush, so that there was no way that I could be ganked aside from going through here. So when I see people on red side coming up and putting that ward there, I know you don't know what you're doing. Because look, this whole area is blocked off when all you had to do was walk up and put, well, obviously I messed that up, but I put the word closer to here and you would get vision across this whole section. And then I saw some people that got it right. But the problem that I saw the most, well, I wouldn't even say it's a problem because I was giving away the information, was that I saw other countries and other regions do it more frequently than NA. And I spent time intentionally streaming when I was doing something other than playing League as an AMA, and nobody came and asked questions. All I got were these little snippy remarks on the LCS broadcast or from other casters, or when I would go and watch somebody's streams. All these little Mm, dog whistle comments. As they were copying pasting parts of my builds or parts of my rune setup when it didn't apply to their situation. I knew what was going on the whole time. I was sure there was something up when somebody made a video like mocking the way I was posting on my timeline, just putting songs. That far back. And I tried to build some kind of rapport with the people that were obviously stealing from me hand over fist. And like stealing pieces of chicken from me hand over foot, hand over fist, and then not cooking it all the way through. I'm like, bro, you have to cook the chicken all the way through. You're gonna get sick. And sure enough, they would make these builds that weren't like completely thought out, and they would just suck. Like they were just trying to do too many things, and they weren't accomplishing any of them. So God told me to leave, and I did, and it was so much more peaceful, like not having to deal with any of it. And then it just didn't stop, and it would roll into my games, and it would roll into other games, and it would roll into anything I did, like even in the real world. Does it bother me? Do I feel like I'm threatened for my life? I don't really care. Like if somebody was threatening to shoot me in game, not even shoot me in game, like they were threatening to shoot me. And obviously there are people that deliver food to my apartment. League of Legends is one of the largest played video games in the world. Like, is it really that much of a stress to be like, oh well, somebody that plays League of Legends probably works at some kind of delivery service. If they see my address, and obviously I'm not hiding behind a name online, what, they're just going to hold that information to themselves out of the goodness of their heart when they're doing all this stuff in the first place? Probably not. But it's not like God doesn't know about it. So if somebody shoots up my house and I die, well, then I get to go to heaven and I don't have to deal with the fallen world anymore. Or what? That they're gonna, the people in Riot or Justice community in general is gonna hold me back from something that God promised to me about me being a professional player? Let me refer you to the Egyptians when Pharaoh was trying to hold the Jewish people there. Obviously, I'm just one person and it's not to that level, but you think what? That God can't make it happen? Ludicrous. Is it frustrating that so many people that I'm trying to help and trying to have them become better players so that NA as a whole can be a better region? So that the people that play League of Legends can level up and the games are that much more exciting because everybody's that much more skilled? It would be nice. It would be really fun and very challenging and like super exciting to go from whenever Insect created like the Lee Sin kick to now where everybody can do it. Like that is a much more exciting game. But I mean, obviously I can't like force you to build for yourself and stop copying some random third-party websites suggestions when that is their entire business model, is just to tell you what to do. And for them to do it for every champion in the game on the drop of a dime on every single patch and to say this is this and that is that, I just don't buy it. And for them to be able to grind to a high ELO, I just don't buy it. Because it takes me this long to develop a build for a champion that I consistently play. And you're telling me they just, oh, new patch, oh, new items, here you go, we got the entire meta solved. No. No. And I can understand as a beginner's tool when you're like, there are so many items, I can't sit here and base trying to figure out what I need to buy for this champion that I'm first timing in ranked for no good reason. Or for the streamers that I see first time, like just, I don't even know what they're doing. Sometimes I don't even know what they're doing. Considering it's their job. Like to play League of Legends, I don't know what they're doing. But that's a whole nother conversation, and one that I don't need to be a part of because it's not my job. Like they're not my teammates. They're not on my team. Like we're not coworkers. Like we're peers because we play League of Legends as our jobs because this is what I'm doing as a job, like as my own business that I'm funding myself. Glory to God for making it happen. Obviously, it's not like a lavish lifestyle, but my bills are paid. I have food. I'm healthy. Like, glory to God. So I don't know what to tell you. Like, hopefully, you'll be able to extrapolate this one example into what I'm trying to tell y'all so y'all can figure it out for yourselves. Because it's so it's a joke watching LCS play on the live patch and seeing it fail so miserably. Seeing other regions that are a patch behind us using double Doran starter items in bot so that they can get early prio and just have like later items, and that still hasn't even made it to LCS, and it seems like a solid strategy, and they're a patch behind. And the most like unique thing we got was ADTF ADC. And Zach Mid, which is it's really old already. Like that's been going on for a very long time. And what I don't know if you guys expected me to be just like your golden goose for new ideas by having me locked in bronze playing against people that are clearly not bronze. So that you can just exploit my ideas and claim them as your own. But like God didn't know about what was going on. Like he's the one that told me only to play Orianna. He's the one that told me to share what I shared with you. He's the one that told me to make this video. I personally, I honestly, I would rather do what God wants me to do. But it will also be very nice for me just to be able to eat in peace. But if this is what he wants me to do, then he knows why. So I'm going to do what he wants me to do. What y'all do with this information? I don't know. There's a verse in the Bible that says, worrying about what other people will do, like with your work, is chasing the wind. I'll look for it because. Oh, this one. It's in Ecclesiastes. I came to hate all my hard work here on earth, for I must leave to others everything I have earned. And who can tell whether my successors will be wise or foolish? Yet they will control everything I have gained by my skill and hard work under the sun. How meaningless. So I gave up in despair, questioning the value of all my hard work in this world. Some people work wisely with knowledge and skill, then must leave the fruit of their efforts to someone who hasn't worked for it. This too is meaningless, a great tragedy. So what do people get in this life for all their hard work and anxiety? Their days of labor are filled with pain and grief. Even at night, their minds cannot rest. It is all meaningless. So I decided there's nothing better to enjoy food and drink and to find satisfaction in work. Then I realized that these pleasures are from the hand of God. For who can eat or enjoy anything apart from him? God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy to those who please him. But if a sinner becomes wealthy, God takes the wealth away and gives to those who please him. This too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. So as long as I am enjoying that, I play League of Legends as my job. Like that's from God. Like, and I'm glad that I get to enjoy the work that I do, because there's a lot of people that don't enjoy the work that they do. And obviously, he's providing for me. So, what else is there to say?